A three-team trade in the works of the NBA. Is this finally the solution that gets Jimmy Butler out of Miami? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Subscribe right here to the channel, especially this time of year. The trade deadline just over a week away right now, so hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you stay in the know. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, I love this time of year. We got the Aaron Fox stuff. Now we've got this Jimmy Butler trade that I think could actually be what finally does it and gets the market moving here.
Do you think it's actually going to happen? You think we're finally going to see it?
I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it really does. So here's the trade. A potential three-team trade framework via Matt Moore. The framework, two sources described as Golden State's hope, would send Andrew Wiggins going out in the deal, which I think it's pretty certain that he'll wind up going out in a Jimmy Butler trade if Jimmy goes to Golden State. And this is all being based on the idea that Bradley Beal, the Suns just can't move him. They can't get that done. So then maybe Butler to Golden State is back on. Andrew Wiggins going out in the deal, either to Toronto or rerouted to Toronto from Miami. So the bottom line is that Toronto gets Andrew Wiggins, who is Canadian. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, what he would bring to the Raptors. And then Bruce Brown winds up going from Toronto to Miami, who's on an expiring contract. And we know one of Miami's goals is to make sure they don't take back salaries that go past 2026. Now, there will be other pieces in the trade, but the framework of it would be Jimmy Butler to Golden State, Andrew Wiggins to Toronto, Bruce Brown to Miami. What do you think about that base to build off of, Donnie?
Oh, that's definitely pretty interesting. There's a lot of moving pieces there. And the Warriors walk away with Golden State. I like that too. And they're giving up Andrew Wiggins. That's it? Just Andrew, or?
No, I think there would have to be. There would have to be more salaries put in, and I've got the trade kind of built out. Okay, it's a little bit tricky to where I think there might even need to be a fourth team involved, unless there's some flexibility in it. So I've got the trade all built out. Let's take a look at that and what that would look like in just a second. First, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks Daily Fantasy Sports. It's a lot of fun to go play. And if you use our promo code Bulletin, that way they know that you came from us, and you will get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 played. You can click the link in the description down below. Going to make a couple of picks here. First and foremost, though, Donnie, before I even do anything, I'm going over to the NFL, and I'm looking the Patrick Mahomes free square, 0.5 passing yards. Yes, please. I will take that. That's an easy one to add in there. Obviously, I love that PrizePicks does stuff like that. Our friend Lonzo Ball here, 5.5 points against Boston. I feel like he can do that.
It sounds like an easy one to do, man. I think he had 18 or whatever in his last game, if I remember right. So he should do it.
And it's a goblin play here, so that it makes it a little bit easier to get. Let's go. Bam Adebayo against Cleveland. That's interesting. Sabonis against Philly with no idea what's going to happen with De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think he's going to crush them. That's going to be an easy one, I think.
Okay, so let's go there as well. So on this one, if you were to put in $10 on this, you would get $37.50 back, because we are using the Goblin play here on a 3-play pick. So go check it out, guys. Go check out PrizePicks if you like this play, or if you think differently. Click the link in the description and then use our promo code Bulletin. All right, let's take a look at what this trade could actually look like if we were to work it out here. Now, there are some challenges, but for me, just a basic framework I started playing with, we started stacking up pieces, expiring contracts, Lindy Waters, Dennis Schroeder, Bruce Brown, all winding up in Miami. Is that exactly the way it will play out? We'll see. Again, the problem here is Golden State winds up sending out so many pieces in order to, they have to send out a certain amount of salary to bring back Jimmy Butler. They're also dealing with the issue that they're hard capped at the first-year apron, so they can't take back too much. So they have to send out enough salary to satisfy that situation. But the Raptors get Andrew Wiggins and then Gary Payton II, and the Warriors get Garrett Temple on an expiring deal just to kind of make some math work, and Jimmy Butler. Obviously, there'd have to be some draft capital involved here, because I don't think Andrew Wiggins an expiring salary. I know the asking prices come down, but I don't think Andrew Wiggins an expiring salary without The big piece here being Jonathan Kuminga. Without him in the deal, and maybe because the price has dropped for Jimmy Butler, maybe now they can do that. But I don't think Wiggins and just expiring contracts is enough to get Jimmy. So maybe some draft capital gets added in that makes its way to Miami here.
Yeah, I think that probably winds up having to be the case because there's not really much capital in this deal, period.
No.
There's
nothing yet.
There's the whole, well, you haven't really got to that yet. That's not your fault. But there's the whole Bruce Brown of it all. Like, are they going to want to have a couple seconds or a second or something to facilitate this and get involved in it? That could be a thing too. But Miami, they're going to for sure want something back if Kuminga's not a part of it. I wonder if they're just so ready to get off of him that they would just let this go without Kuminga being a part of the deal. That because up till now they've been like, no, we need him. So
I was thinking this is what the word is that the Warriors are now re-engaging on a Jimmy Butler deal, and that the price has come down, and that's what's caused the Warriors to re-engage on a Jimmy Butler deal. Well, from the Warriors' perspective, we're either talking about future draft capital or Miami budged and said, okay, we'll do it without Kuminga involved. If we can get back expiring pieces, we get back draft capital. Because from the Warriors side, they were questioning, do we actually get better if we trade Wiggins and Kuminga, both of our wings? And I know Kuminga's hurt right now, but if we trade both of those guys, are we really getting that much better? So that's just my thought, is maybe the Heat budged there. If they didn't, then it could be there was draft capital that previously had been discussed that the Warriors were going to put in, and instead they're not. For example, I mean, the Warriors have their 2021 first. They got a 2026. They've got draft capital here. They've got all their future first round picks right now to potentially use in a deal. So you could trade any of those if you wanted. You've got some second round picks. In fact, they actually have Miami's second round pick. You've got a 2031, a couple of 2031 picks. So they've got some draft capital to send back. Just for fun, let's call this the Warriors pick that goes to Miami in the deal. So then Miami gets Bruce Brown, Dennis Schroeder, Lindy Waters, and a first for Jimmy. And so they clear a lot of cap space. Plus, maybe they keep Bruce Brown long-term. He seems like a Miami Heat type player. But then you already got to the question, though, Donnie, what do the Raptors want Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up because I actually personally think that's the tricky part of this because I don't know if they would. I mean, they're sending him back to Canada. Maybe there's something, where they're cool with that.
They got Kelly Olynyk, right?
Yeah, and also Barrett too, right? Like
RJ Barrett, fellow Canadians.
Yeah, they maybe that's part of it, But other than that, I don't really know if they want this long-term salary on their books. And Miami, they probably won't want him because they've already said they don't want that salary on their books. And it's tricky because it puts Wiggins in a spot where I think he's kind of just filler here, but he's having a really good season. I mean, he's playing exactly 30 minutes per game. Well, 29.8, 30 minutes per game, giving 17 points, almost a block, almost a steal, 2 assists, 4.5 rebounds, shooting 38% from 3. He's having a great season, especially given that he had a really down season last year. And you wouldn't necessarily be looking to get off of a wing that's giving you that production. So it's just a weird spot to be in. And production-wise, you're not statistically only. You're not really getting much better because Jimmy does about the same stuff. But there's the upside that it's freaking Jimmy Butler, right? Like, so that's where it's like it's freaking Jimmy Butler. So obviously you're getting better in the long term. I just wonder in terms of just the Warriors piece, if this is the specific move that they need. But we've always said that we like him here. But yeah, on Wiggins specifically, I don't know if it's unfortunate, like I said, but I don't know if they'd want him just given what the contract is. And he's got that player option on that last year too.
Well, if there's an asset coming in addition, right? We go look at the Raptors salaries. When we look at next season, where they're at with the first apron, they're projected to be a below first apron team next year easily. Same thing with second apron, just barely above the cap. So they've got room here. And I think this does fit with the Brandon
Warriors
Ingram
or the
rumor.
Raptors?
I'm sorry. I was on the Warriors.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
I was looking at the wrong page.
Man. I got your back.
Thank you. I had flipped over to the Warriors and I forgot that I switched it over. So we're looking at the Raptors here.
Yeah.
Where are they at? All right. So they are at.
They should be clean.
They should. No, I mean they've got some money on the books here when you get to Emmanuel quickly, RJ Barrett, but they're not bad. They're not in bad shape here at all. They're in really good shape. They've got a lot of cap space next.
They're gonna have that Barnes extension too. That's not on there, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to, and that's where you're assuming, Scotty Barnes, that extension's kicking in. That's going to be like 38 million.
You're going to have some money. Team. You're going to kind of get locked into this quickly Barrett. They've already done it, so they're already knowing. But quickly Barrett, Pirtle, Barnes, core, and then if you bring Wiggins in, is that the piece you need to be competitive? I'm not. They'll also have a draft pick this year too, right? So I'm not really sure. Yeah. But like, is that the core that you need? That's tricky.
So they're 36. They're going to be well under the first apron, well under the second apron this next year. They're in good shape. But I think if we combine this with the rumor that the Raptors might be interested in Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram. Okay.
I think this is where this makes a little bit of sense to get Andrew. Now I'm not saying just get back. I don't know that you should turn expiring contract Bruce Brown just into Andrew Wiggins, because I don't know how many teams value Andrew Wiggins on his current salary as a positive value, even though, like you said, he's been playing well. Yeah. I don't know how many teams would value him as a positive value, just given that he's making, 30. Yeah, he's making almost 30, or he is making 30 2 years from now. So, but if you're getting back Wiggins and something, and then you ask yourself this, if you really believe that you need another wing on this team to put with Scotty Barnes, and that's going to help you hit that next level, that it's going to be Emmanuel Quickly, it's going to be Grady Dick. Yes, I said his name. I got through it. It's going to be
RJ Barrett, though?
RJ Barrett, right? Yeah. RJ Barrett there as well. But I mean, look, you can't have too many wings in the NBA right now, especially guys that could score the basketball. You've got Jakob Poeltl in the post. You've got Scotty Barnes. Let's call him your four here. You put Andrew Wiggins into the mix. Is that a better route than going for Brandon Ingram, who you could acquire? You could do something. You could send out the Bruce Brown money plus in a trade and bring back Brandon Ingram, but then you have to pay him. And so would you rather have Andrew Wiggins for, say, 2 more seasons after this one at just under 60 million total, or let's say to get Brandon Ingram, you have to give him at least 95 total, right? Because he wants 50. Let's say even if you get him to take a little bit less, he wants 50 a year. Let's say you do a 2-year deal with Brandon Ingram, costing 95 million instead of 100, just to give him to take a little bit off of that 50 million price tag. Would you rather give Brandon Ingram that much money, or Andrew Wiggins like a third of what, or 2/3 of what BI is getting?
It's an entirely different player look, all that stuff, but
right,
man, you're going to be giving Wiggins, like you said, like a third or 2/3 of the money for similar production.
Right.
Yeah, I'd probably rather do that.
So
and they're about the same age too. I'd probably rather do that.
And then you add in the Canada piece, and that's where I could see if the Raptors say we really need another wing, and Andrew Wiggins. Look, people act like Andrew Wiggins is 35. He's 29. No, he's 29. Like, he's not done. He's still got plenty of value. Now, I mean, what, Brandon Ingram is 27? So there is a difference here, but I mean, I could see how the Raptors could talk themselves into this. If they say, you know what, we're just going to tank this 1 year. We're going to get a nice high draft pick. Hopefully we get the guy that we want, but we're going to get a nice high draft pick this year. And hopefully it's a star level player. And then we want to add the right piece to this mix. And Andrew Wiggins could be a guy that gives him something on the perimeter. Let's put it this way. If you were to have a Raptors team next year, that's Emmanuel Quickly, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Andrew Wiggins, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, and then Dylan Harper is in the mix now. Cooper Flagg, whoever it is they get in the draft. Like, that could be the making a pretty damn good team. That could be you tanked and you're right back in maybe the play-in next year, right? And you're in the mix in the Eastern Conference suddenly. And I think that's the future the Raptors have to be looking at here.
What's their projected pick this year?
Right now, they are, if the draft were to happen currently, Toronto would have the 6th pick if it were to stay chalk.
Okay.
And they've accidentally won their last 4 games. Which has hurt them significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, assuming that it stays, chalk like you said. I mean, yeah, I think you're also betting on, and you're doing this either way with the way their book is structured. You're betting on internal growth from the players that they've got there. So yeah, I could see it, and I don't think they're gonna jump to be a title contender or anything like that. So having Wiggins for the next few years can probably tide you over until you are ready to construct your roster in a way around Barnes and whoever else that you have at that point a couple years from now to try to be a contender. So I wanted to also pivot to talk a bit about the Miami piece of this.
Sure.
We spent a lot talking about them because the Wiggins piece, but Miami specifically, do you think that this is the type of deal that they're looking for? Or is it more just like I was saying earlier, they're so ready to get off him. They kind of got to get off him for a lot of different reasons. And they're just going to take the best deal that's available to them, which isn't going to be anything crazy. And how do you think that the Bruce Brown acquisition looks for this team going forward?
Yeah, so for Miami, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think number one, it's get this guy off the roster. I think if they're at the point where they're lowering their asking price to try to get teams to bite, I think they want him gone. And rightfully so, given the way things have gone. And I'm not saying Jimmy is to blame here. Miami has some, Pat Riley has some blame. This is Pat Riley versus Jimmy Butler. So that's certainly a piece of this. It's not all on Jimmy, but it's pretty clear whether you're on Jimmy's side, whether you're on the Heat side, they need to part ways. They need to be done and move on. And so I think that's a part of this. So if you're talking about getting back, Dennis Schroeder's expiring. It does, again, we can shuffle around some of the pieces here in this deal. Maybe they like Kyle Anderson, right? Maybe there's plenty of moving parts that you could put into this. But if you're looking at the main piece coming back as Bruce Brown, is he as valuable as Jimmy Butler? No, of course not. He's nowhere close. But would he fit Heat culture? Would he be kind of a do-everything type of role player that could step in? Could you maybe keep him on a new deal next year? Sure. So you're adding that into your mix. Again, doesn't have to be, maybe Miami sees a different need. I threw Dennis Schroeder in there because I thought as a veteran player, that's somebody that maybe could help them, given that the Heat still want to make a postseason push. They want to make the playoffs. They want their pick this year to actually convey, so it doesn't turn into two future picks wind up being unprotected as a domino effect of this pick not conveying this year. So they still want to win right now. Bruce Brown, Schroeder going back, those are pieces that can help them. Are they getting the young talent in Kuminga that they wanted? No, but maybe that Warriors future first could give them something. Even if it's just a first round pick this year. Golden State, you're probably talking about a pick just outside the lottery. Maybe that's something worth considering. I guess maybe the middle ground would be, can you find a way to get the Warriors to send instead of Kuminga? If that is indeed what they're giving on, what they're budging on there, could you get like a Trace Jackson Davis as a backup behind Bam? I mean, I know you already have Kella Ware. That's the problem, but I don't think they'd give up Podziemski. Moses Moody has the poison pill situation, so that makes it a little tough to trade him. The alternative too would be, what if Miami went the other way and said, no picks, just give us Kuminga and expiring salaries? Ooh. Could you do that?
That may, like, I understand the Kuminga value, of course, but that may be pretty solid if they can hold on to, if they could get, or from the Warriors, if they could hold on to Wiggins, pair him with Jimmy. I think.
I mean, you would still need, Wiggins would still need to be at a.
Okay. Never mind. Yeah, you're right. The math.
I mean, so we had in our hypothetical here, we had a first round pick going from the Warriors to Miami. What if you said, we'll take out the first and we'll put
no
Kuminga
first.
back
so everything
in.
Else exactly the same. No first, but Kuminga.
Some salaries would shift, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's better for Miami, I think, because you get a guaranteed, like, what he is and what he could potentially be, as opposed to a pick that who knows what the hell that is or where it's going to fall. Unless you get a pick that's a few years from now. I think that's probably like one of those picks where it's like,
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, could you get the Warriors? I don't know if they do it on unprotected, but could you get the Warriors to give up like their 2028 pick with very limited protections or something, right? I mean, we're talking post Steph, post Draymond, post Jimmy, right? Like right after that period. I don't know if the Warriors would do it. And so that's where, but that's where there's a lot of room for negotiation in this. And that's why I think maybe there's more possibility of this happening, because there is there's a lot of different things you can turn to. Well, okay, you guys really don't want to move Kuminga. Okay, let's talk about the future draft capital. Can we boost that a little bit somewhere? It's not like, hey, this is the only trade you can do. There's plenty of moving parts to kind of finagle it.
At the same time, though, like I like Miami's young core, or I guess young-ish core with Kalel, Hero, Bam. I like what they have and what they're doing here, and I can see why they would want to add another player to that so they can have a good team for years to come. I really do understand that, and Jimmy kind of is not really on their timeline anymore. He's a little bit older, a good bit older than those guys, so he's not really on the same timeline, so I get that too. But at the same time, Jimmy is also in a position where, they could extend this, they can run it, but they don't want to do that. And I don't think they will do that. And so if that's the case, I think if you're the Warriors, you've got the leverage here. You're like, if we don't want to give you X, Y, or Z, then you kind of just got to get this done. Now, you don't want to get too cute with it and like talk them into dealing with somebody else, but I think they've got the leverage. I don't think it's Miami. I don't think it's Jimmy Butler. I think it's the Warriors.
So in that case, that would suggest maybe they could do it without Kuminga. We'll see. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Donnie, I think a lot of it comes down to this. What does Steph want? Does Steph Curry want Jimmy Butler? Because if so, that should give the Warriors all the incentive they need to make, and maybe it is just future draft capital or something like that to go get him, right? To go and get it done, and then you make your run, and then your run is Jimmy, Curry, and Draymond, and off you go. And you see what happens and what you can do and see what kind of noise you can make. Does Steph want you to do it? But I do think Miami is more motivated to move Jimmy than other teams are to get him, because there's other options out there on the market. The Warriors could explore a Brandon Ingram trade if they really wanted to, or something, or just keep Andrew Wiggins.
And Miami, they have to get off of him because the guys don't want him there anymore, and he's a problem, and they can't continue to suspend him and all this stuff. It just doesn't make any sense. They've got to get off.
And the Heat players will say they love Jimmy and all that kind of stuff, and they do, but that doesn't mean he's not a distraction, which is what we've also heard coming out of the Heat, is that it's a distraction, and so you want to be able to move forward and kind of have the air lifted around that team. So, Donnie, I think the one thing that we know for sure, first of all, I do think this is an interesting framework of a trade that could really work, and it makes sense that this is the framework the Warriors would like to see happen, because they find a way to give Miami expiring salary instead of Andrew Wiggins. And my guess would be if Miami has to take back Wiggins, they probably are demanding more coming back to them because of the salary going past 2026, which is a no-no for Miami right now. So I think that's an interesting piece to this. There's been some rumblings that Miami, if they do take back salary past 2026, they want more coming back in the trade. So again, this is presented as an ideal situation for the Warriors, because it would send expirings to Miami, which in theory would mean Miami wouldn't need as much in order to do the deal. But I also think the motivation is there for all three parties, with maybe Toronto, I think, being the biggest question. I can understand why the Warriors would want to get Jimmy Butler and kind of make this push. I can understand why the Heat are motivated to move off of Jimmy Butler. And maybe if you can get expirings and some future stuff, there you go. Wiggins, is the Canadian connection strong enough? And are the alternative options less appealing to Andrew Wiggins landing in Toronto? I think that's the biggest question mark here. But I do think the one thing we know, Donnie, is I think it is a very high likelihood that Jimmy Butler has played his last game for the Miami Heat, and he will be on a different team on February 7th.
Hopefully. There's still the possibility that Jimmy's still here awkwardly post deadline, and I don't know
could you imagine?
I have no clue what they're gonna do at that point. It's just gonna be really weird. But
they would have no choice but to play him.
They wouldn't. They've already kind of tried it. They tried to bring him off the bench, and it was weird. So I don't know what they're gonna do at that point. So that's why I said I think they just got to get off him and take what's available. And you're not gonna get everything you want, but if you're willing to settle on something and get a good enough deal at that point, you should probably take it if you're Miami, which is why I think the Warriors got a lot of the leverage here if they are the team they're dealing with, and rip the Suns, I guess, because I don't know how they pivot if this deal happens, because they made that trade for those first round picks. Maybe they're going to pull a rabbit out of a hat and have another deal here that they can kind of work through. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is all getting really interesting.
Man, the Suns with Bradley Beal. If I was the Suns, I'd even be talking to the Chicago Bulls like, hey, forget Jimmy. Can you just give us Zach LaVine in exchange for Bradley?
You need to talk to Bradley. You got to talk to Bradley because if he doesn't want to go, if he doesn't want to go, you're screwed.
Places. And nobody else wants him.
Then what was the point of the first round picks trade?
I don't know. Maybe they thought they had something and it fell through. Who knows? Maybe this is all smokescreen to try to get the Phoenix Suns to pay a little bit more.
Maybe.
You never know. And that's what you love about NBA trade season. Endless possibilities, which brings us back to make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. We're going to keep you updated on everything going on the trade front and more around the NBA here on the Basketball Bulletin. Hit that subscribe button and check out my video from earlier today about De'Aaron Fox revealed what it is the Kings actually want to get back in a De'Aaron Fox trade. Really important in that situation. So go check that out right now.